So, we get given a different presentational style as we learn and focus on trap cards in this rather divided episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. Hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're here to talk about episode 4 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush anime series. Now I did just mention that this episode for me felt a bit divisive because there were a few things that I really liked about the episode, but then there were some elements that I really wasn't impressed with. So let's talk about it all right now, starting off with the positives of this episode. As the main highlight for me was the fact is that only in episode 4 we are still advancing the plot forward, and it seems like the plot is moving a bit faster than if we compare it with Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's. So we are still learning about an element of rush dueling in the form of trap cards, but we get given it in a very different presentational style, which does give that kind of rejuvenized, refreshing vibe and atmosphere about the episode, because we didn't get a duel. Now normally whenever we get introduced to an element of dueling, it is through a duel, but this way I kind of preferred it. Now, what I mean by advancing the plot forward is the fact is we get briefly introduced to a character called Kawi Tel, who is an alien that was said to be the one who actually stole Yuhi's Earth Dama. Now, alongside this confirmation, we do get given a flashback of a duel between Kawi Tel and Yuhi, in where Yuhi actually loses, but then reveals that something actually happened to him, because we hear Kawi Tel says he's so parched. Now of course we never actually get shown what happens to Yuhi, however that just adds mystery that we need to learn moving forward. Now one aspect of Kawi Tel's character that I can't remember got confirmed before Go Rush started, but he does remind me of a Keppa from Japanese mythology, as they as creatures have a small water bowl within their head that gives them profound wisdom, and they are also said to be expert healers and have a broad knowledge of medicine. They also have extraordinary strength and are very resilient. So if we apply those elements and traits of a Keppa to Kawi Tel's character, I wouldn't be surprised if Kawi Tel has some of these abilities. After all, he looks like a scientist slash researcher, which would tie into that profound wisdom and possibly knowledge about medicine. Plus, we see that Yudias and other aliens that have appeared within Go Rush already have the ability of super strength, which again, Keppas are said to have. So if Kawi Tel is based on a Keppa, then he too should have extraordinary strength, be very resilient, and of course, going by his design, is very wismatic and has broad knowledge in medicine. Just a guess, but I do kind of think there might be some similarities. And of course, Keppas are often seen coming out of water, and the first introduction to Kawi Tel is him coming out of a river, or lake. I think it's a river. Now, moving away from that, having the lost cat girl return within this episode I thought was a very cool addition, as it keeps the mystery of this character going, because we don't actually know who she is. She appears within the ending in multiple shots of that ending, and now she's a reoccurring character who's appeared in multiple episodes. Now we have to talk about Yuhi, as he might not be my favourite character from Go Rush or a top tier character in general, but at this moment in time, I really like his out of UTS design. Him with that coat just looks awesome. This episode, however, though, was another miss for me in terms of Yuhi's character. I like the fact that he took responsibility for breaking the ship, and he tried to fix it, and he took effort to kind of save the ship from being put into the furnace. He does show some good elements in the episode, especially with that switcheroo. That was kind of cool. But the comedy with this character really doesn't land for me. I don't like it. It feels like I'm watching early Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's Luke without the dueling skill. And personally for me, I hated the early comedy that Luke showed in 7's, And with Yuhi, it's not the same, but it just reminds me of that, and it's just not funny. His jokes don't make me laugh. Plus, isn't he meant to be an inventor? So why couldn't he figure out that it's just a click into the hole, fix, solution, done? Yeah, Yuhi for me, he needs a bit more focus, but it needs to be a little bit more serious. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully he does develop further moving forward, and he does become a bit more interesting. Okay, so we're moving on to some things that I didn't enjoy about the episode. And I think the main issue I had was with the character of Chupa Taro. I like what he did with the traps within this episode, as that was something different than the normal style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Introducing trap cards through the act of dueling. That was a good element that his character brought to the episode. But the character himself just doesn't give me any enjoyment when I'm watching him on the screen. I'm not a fan of his little kind of phrases and speech patterns after speaking a sentence, as it just came across as very cartoonish and childish. Now, of course, we are watching a cartoon / anime, and in his defense, he does look like a child when in his human form. So him acting this way does make a bit of sense. Plus, I will admit I have not, as of recording this review, watched episode 3 yet. So I don't know the character's full backstory, but just from my first impressions of this episode in episode 4, he just isn't a good character in my opinion. The design for this character when in his alien form reminds me of the Cybermen from the Dragon Ball Z anime series, and I can't get that image out of my head. Which then means I can't take this alien seriously, because in Dragon Ball Z, they were just fodder and used as henchmen, which is the kind of vibe I get from Chupa Taro, in the fact that he is just a henchman that is very disposable under the thumb of yugioh. You could even actually argue as well that although this Pokemon is a different colour, this alien from Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush does remind me of the Pokemon known as Stabili. Now, this character having a crush on that sheep monster card is actually okay in my opinion. Like, it is a little bit weird, but at the same time, we've seen characters all across Yu-Gi-Oh! Having card crushes. Just think of Cyrus and the Dark Magician Girl within Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. It's the same thing as that. It's a bit of harmless, weird fun, I guess. Chupa Taro does show off a lot of cool trap cards within this episode. And I haven't seen him actually duel yet. I will go back and watch episode 3 in a short while. But if we do end up seeing this alien duel again, hopefully we get to see him use some of those trap cards as they return in a future duel. Now then, another thing I wasn't a massive fan of within this episode was Yudias falling for all those traps and still thinking that Chupa Taro was his eternal friend, treating those traps as a lesson that was just being taught to him out of kindness. This way of acting / thinking made Yudias out to be super dense and really naive, making it so that he can't read people's intentions or a situation or the atmosphere in the air, which is rather surprising considering his backstory. Now, Yudias brushing his teeth in a weird way or doing something on Earth in an odd, peculiar way that we would normally do things, at first does make sense, because this is a culture change for the character. But you would think that with Yudias being a soldier that has been in battle many times before this, that he would basically have those battle senses and that survival instinct. So when being trapped or being tricked, you'd imagine that those instincts would trigger, causing him to act more cautiously and more observant when it comes to his surroundings. But instead, he keeps blindly following Chupa Taro, who he thinks is an eternal friend, despite that friend getting him into those tricky situations. It just didn't make sense to me. It kind of just made Yudias look dumb. Now, of course, playing off of this, we do learn a few little details about Yudias, like the fact that he has super strength, the fact that he can survive in really cold temperatures, and being in a furnace / fire would only be a small inconvenience for this character. So those little details that were added into the episode to give us more information about our main protagonist I thought were interesting, and a slight positive to Yudias in the episode. At this moment in time, after watching episode 1, 2 and 4, I wouldn't say that I dislike Yudias. I just feel a little bit on the fence with the character. He's very different from what I originally thought he would be like. So hopefully after this first arc concludes, I hope to see that he sharpens up a little bit more and shows a bit more of those warrior mentality style that he would have needed to survive all those battles back on his home planet and other planets in space. Just a little bit more maturity and a little bit more sharpness from our main protagonist is what I'm asking for. However, let's get this review back on to some positive points, as MIK arrived for a brief moment, and I like this usage of this organisation, because it was quick, it was efficient, and it showcased them doing their jobs correctly, making them a bit more believable when looking at the organisation and being a bit more credible within the world of Go Rush. We also had a small interaction between Manabu and Yudias, which showed a sign of respect towards each other, which could be kind of a play off of the events after episode 2, in where Manabu helped out Yudias, and Yudias kind of gave Manabu a bit of encouragement about moving forward. Now, of course, one interesting thing as well was them appearing thanks to a call of help from Yuumu. Normally, it would be a job well done for members of UTS to find and deal with an alien. So Yuumu asking for help from MIK, their rival organisation, shows that she is willing to ask for help when something might be too crazy or she might be out of her depth to handle alone. This shows that she is very smart and also willing to ask for help, which sets her pride to one side. We know that she is very prideful, we know that she's very kind of business driven, but at the same time, when her friends and family are in trouble, she'll put that pride to one side to ensure that they are safe at the end of the day, and this I highly respect. So overall, looking at this episode, I would say it's an okay average episode. Nothing too special or mind-blowing, but I like the style that it presented with teaching us about trap cards. The animation was okay in some places and kind of weird in others, but at the same time, we had no duel, yet the episode was still able to progress the plot forward, even if just a little bit. The new information about the characters that was presented I thought was well presented and showed some positive signs when moving forward as well. And it looks like we are seeing Kawitel dueling in the next episode. This should be fun to witness. So those are my thoughts on this episode. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. Hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Like content. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Alligator, Madane. Goodbye.